Average Pat's Movie Reviews.
Hi everyone, Average Pat here to sit to chat today about the movie Lucy in the Sky. This is a new movie that just came out this past Friday, starring Natalie Portman, John Hamm, Zazie Beetz, Dan Stevens, Pearl Amanda Dickinson, and Ellen Burstyn. This is loosely, and I really mean loosely, based on the true life story of Lisa Novak, who was an astronaut who was convicted for driving 19 hours across the country to confront her lover and his new girlfriend in Orlando. She drove from Houston all the way to Orlando, allegedly wearing adult Depends, or the astronaut equivalent of them, so she wouldn't have to stop. She literally went across the country to get him. In the movie, Lucy is played by Natalie Portman, who has the experience of going to space for 2 weeks, finds it to be an existential experience. Her whole world has changed. She saw how little the Earth is, how big the vast openness of the universe is, and fell in love with it and craves it beyond belief, wanting to go back constantly. In the movie, you see different types of things showing her world becoming smaller as it goes along. Initially, I thought something was wrong with the screen. I'm watching it going, why is there, bars are usually in movie screens are usually on TV when they do adaptations and editing of stuff. But this one, they actually, as her life is progressing on Earth after coming back from space, you see bars on the side of the screen start to slowly move in every time something makes her world feel smaller. And it keeps moving into it, gets to a point of probably a good quarter of the screen is a black bar. And at that point, you're starting to realize that, man, her world is slowly starting to spiral downward. She craves going back to space so much she obsesses over the training. She goes crazy over it. Is an exceptional astronaut, knows everything, knows a pre-checked list memorized, both sides of it, what the checklist is and what her response is. She uses that as a stress relief throughout the movie. She starts monitoring the pre-checks that she goes through in order to go into space, for the launch, for the putting on the suits, everything. It's quite a technical list, and to see Natalie Portman just reeling it off, it just shows a testament of her ability. The other thing that was really, really impressive on her part was she grasped the downward spiral of her character Lucy, and you could see moments where the camera would zoom in on her. She'd have her beautiful smile. She'd be the, quote, perfect wife. And then you'd see just a glimmer of that hesitation of something not quite right. And it would come across her whole face, but just briefly. And then go right back to, okay, everything's good. Let's just go back to doing what we're doing. There is a scene where you see her hesitate before she makes decisions. All right, I've always done this way. Okay, let's try something different to try to get back to that euphoric feeling of being in space. And she really holds that moment of emotion just long enough where it's you can see the struggle going inside her head, but you can't really, for God's sake, you're gonna say yes, just make the decision already. You don't want that. You want to see that struggle that she has, and you start to see the way this downward spiral becomes. John Hamm plays astronaut Mark Goodwin, who is her boyfriend in this movie. She winds up having an affair with him. Her husband, Drew Cola, is played by Dan Stevens, who's known for being in Downton Abbey for a couple seasons. She makes a decision. This is one of those moments where she has that do I decide to or not moments. And she does have an affair with the astronaut Mark, again played by John Hamm, and it's a shame because it seems like John Hamm was more of a typecast in this one. From what I've watched of Mad Men, he seems to just be a person who drinks too much and is very big at fornication. And in this one, it seems to be the same type of thing. He's the old hotshot. One of the lines actually uttered by Dan Stevens as the husband was, well, look at him. He's a superhero. He's an action figure. He's been to space and he's divorced with a kid. He's a superhero, and everybody wants him. And he knew that. And it seems like he exploited that, which unfortunately seems to be just a typecast for John Hamm. Overall, the relationship between Mark and Lucy, you can see the passion is there, the sex is there. They're not very graphic about it, but you know they're having lots of sex. And then he starts to pull away a little bit, and she starts to doubt herself as to what's going on with it. She gets obsessive about it. Her grandmother, played by Ellen Burstyn, was a very big, you need to stand up for yourself and do well. You need to be a proud woman. You need to be the one to go ahead and do stuff. Don't be like your loser brother. Be the one who goes out and does stuff. Her brother's daughter, Blue Iris, was portrayed by Pearl Amanda Dixon, who does a very good job, but not a very depth-filling role. Unfortunately, it's kind of more of a place filler. But the moment when Lucy decides to actually go across the country, she starts barking out orders to Blue Iris, and the efficiency that she does it is obvious because she's in the Navy. She was in the Navy before she became an astronaut, and you can see the orders coming naturally to her to bark them out. When she does finally make that decision to go across country, she had broken into Mark Goodwin's office, read his emails, assumes he's having an affair with another astronaut who is not her, who's actually played by Zazie Beetz. She played Erin Eccles, the other astronaut. And when she finds out that when she thinks they're having their relationship and their affair, the screen that had been slowly mushed more and the view is less suddenly opens up wide again. And it's at that moment where you see the decisions made. She thinks her world is perfect again. Everything's good to go. She needs to go cross country to get him. And without making any spoilers, the whole idea of her focus, again, instead of having the screen collapse, is a focal point. With some scenes, she's quite in focus. Somebody in the scenes with her in focus, but the rest of the scene is not in focus because she starts tunnel visioning. And you see that her world's not quite there again. And as clear as she thought she was, it's going downhill. And you can actually see this personified by the focal points not being perfect or everything being out of focus beyond what the focal point was. It seems to be a very similar idea to what Joker was, with the view of going downhill from the person's point of view. You understand why she's going downhill. You don't quite grasp the whole reasoning behind it, but you kind of see where everything's spiraling downward. But it wasn't as well done as Joker was. This one is a silent movie overall. It didn't make an impact on the box office. It hasn't really been too advertised very much. Unfortunately, this is going to go down probably more as an indie type film than anything else. And I think it's a shame because it is a good movie. It's one that I really, looked forward to seeing once I heard about it, just because of the idea of how would an astronaut view the world at that point, and how would the descent happen. I was very familiar with the story of Lisa Novak. I knew this was loosely based on it, and Lisa Novak's attorneys jumped all over it, saying it's a complete fictionalization, and then they use the term loosely, really loosely. But there is a story there. Lisa was the very first ever astronaut to be arrested, and Lucy, is that person portrayed in this role. Not much of the story matches up, although it was a boyfriend-girlfriend type situation. The whole location was wrong. The story of how they got there was wrong. Her whole family life was wrong. I mean, they just adapted the story of a jilted lover and happened to be an astronaut, based like Lisa was. Overall, I liked the cinematography. Some of the shots were incredible. Some of the passion that she showed for her character, even though the character was going downhill and descending into madness, or temporary insanity, if you will. Even though it went downhill, she did a very good job. Natalie did, and I thought the complement of all the other actors and actresses were just very well cast to support the role. you kind of get the feeling that it's a movie that's out of place where most people don't understand where it's coming from. And unfortunately, I think if they're looking for like a more epic movie, they're going to be disappointed. This one is more of a psychological one. Overall, I would give this rating probably a 3.5 out of 5. It's not a bad movie. It's not a great movie. It could have done a little bit more. It could have been advertised more. It could have been put out there more. Everybody I talked to about it didn't recognize it. It didn't know anything about it, and I think that's going to be a detriment to the film overall. So 3.5 out of 5. And if you like good, psychological movies or good character studies, this is a good movie. I really highly recommend it. If you're looking for an action adventure with a little bit of mystery thrown in, this is definitely not that film. So, again, 3.5 out of 5, and I hope you enjoyed my review. If you do like this review or any of the other ones that I've ever made, please like them on Facebook, like them on YouTube, subscribe to my channel, hit the subscription bell for notifications whenever I post a new review, and let me know what you guys think, what movies you want me to review, and what you're looking forward to, and I will do my best to get them done. Thanks a lot. Have a great day.